Welcome back. Tonight, we are going to spend some quiet time exploring Ruby on Rails, softly, slowly, and without any rush. So if you are settling into bed or relaxing after a long day of coding, you can simply listen and let the concepts drift by gently in the background. Ruby on Rails is a web framework designed to help developers build applications in a way that feels expressive, organized, and surprisingly human. Over the years, Rails became known for a simple philosophy that programming should feel enjoyable, not stressful, not repetitive, not filled with unnecessary configuration, but calm, predictable, and elegant. One of the ideas often associated with Rails is something called convention over configuration. And while the phrase may sound complicated at first, the idea itself is actually very gentle. Rails tries to make reasonable decisions for us so that we can spend less time configuring files and more time focusing on the application itself. Instead of forcing developers to describe every tiny detail manually, Rails quietly follows a set of conventions, small patterns, shared structures, and familiar naming styles that help everything fit together naturally. And because of this, many Rails applications begin to feel readable, almost conversational, as if the framework is quietly guiding the structure beneath the surface. Tonight, our focus will be on models, the part of a Rails application responsible for representing information, storing data, and helping the application understand real-world concepts. Users, posts, projects, emails, messages, all of these can become models inside a Rails application. Models help give shape to information. They create structure, relationships, rules, and persistence. And as we explore them tonight, we will move slowly, taking our time, allowing the ideas to settle naturally. There is nothing to memorize right now, nothing to solve, nothing to debug, just a quiet exploration of Rails, one concept at a time. Now that we have settled in and gently introduced the world of Ruby on Rails, we can begin exploring one of the most important parts of the framework, the model. In Rails, models are responsible for representing information. They help the application understand real-world concepts and organize them into meaningful structures. A user can be a model, a post can be a model, a message, a project. All of these can exist as models within an application. Models give shape to data. They allow the application to understand what something is, what information belongs to it, and how it connects to everything else around it. Imagine a simple application for a blog. We may have users, and we may have posts. Each user has a name, an email, perhaps a password, and each post may contain a title, a body of text, and a publication date. Rails models help organize these ideas clearly. The user model represents users. The post model represents posts. Simple, predictable, and easy to follow. Behind the scenes, models are also connected to the database. When a model is created, Rails usually expects a matching database table to exist as well. A user model often connects to a users table. A post model connects to a posts table. And inside those tables, information is stored row by row, quietly persisting data beneath the application. Every time a new user signs up, a new record may be created. Every time a post is published, another row may be added to the database. The model becomes a kind of bridge between the application itself and the information stored underneath it. And one of the reasons Rails feels so calming to work with is because these patterns remain consistent. Models represent data, controllers handle requests, views display information. Over time, these conventions begin to feel familiar, almost comforting, like small architectural patterns repeating themselves throughout the application. And as developers continue building, the models slowly become a reflection of the world the application is trying to describe. Users, posts, comments, all transformed into organized structures inside a Rails application, quietly connected, quietly persistent, and designed to work together naturally. Now that we have spent some time exploring models, we can move a little deeper and softly explore the database itself. Beneath many Rails applications, there is usually a database quietly storing information, keeping track of records, relationships, timestamps, and changes over time. The database acts almost like memory for the application. Without it, information would disappear whenever the application stopped running. But with a database, data can persist calmly in the background, remaining available whenever it is needed again. When a new user signs up, their information may be stored in the database. When a complaint is submitted, a new record may quietly appear in a table. When an investigation is updated, the database remembers those changes. Everything becomes persistent, organized, structured, reliable. One of the most common ways to imagine a database is as a collection of tables, and each table contains information about a specific kind of thing. A users table may contain users. A posts table may contain blog posts, simple structures, repeated consistently. Inside each table, there are columns. Columns describe the kinds of information being stored. For a user, there may be a name column, an email column, a password digest column, timestamps, showing when the record was created and when it was last updated. And within the table, each row represents a single record, one specific user, one specific post, quietly stored inside the database. Over time, as applications grow, these tables may contain thousands or even millions of records. And yet Rails allows developers to interact with them in a way that often feels calm and expressive, rather than mechanical. Instead of writing large amounts of database code manually, Rails models help translate information into objects, making the interaction feel more natural. A developer can ask for a user, retrieve their posts, update a comment, or create an event without needing to think constantly about the raw database underneath. The framework quietly handles much of the structure behind the scenes. And because Rails follows conventions so consistently, many of these patterns become familiar very quickly. Tables, columns, records, relationships, small building blocks, working together quietly beneath the application. And somewhere underneath every model, every validation, every association, the database continues storing information patiently, one row at a time. We now have gently explored models and spent some time understanding databases. We can continue a little further and softly explore how models are created in Ruby on Rails. One of the things that makes Rails feel so approachable is the way it helps generate structure automatically. Rather than building every file manually, Rails provides generators, small tools that help create the foundation of an application. A developer can describe a model they wish to create, and Rails quietly prepares much of the surrounding structure. A model file may be generated. A database migration may be created. Test files, folders, and conventions, all arranged automatically. This reflects one of the central ideas within Rails, that repetitive work should be reduced whenever possible. The framework tries to handle common patterns for us, so we can focus more attention on the behavior of the application itself. Imagine we are creating a simple blog application. Perhaps we want a post model. The post may have a title, a body of text, and timestamps recording when it was created and updated. Rails can help establish this structure very quickly, and once the model exists, it begins to feel like a natural part of the application. Posts can be created, retrieved, updated, deleted, quietly moving between the application and the database beneath it. At the same time, Rails also uses migrations, which are small files responsible for describing changes to the database structure. A migration may create a table, add a column, remove a field, or modify an existing structure over time. And one of the calming things about migrations is that they create a kind of history for the database, a timeline of gradual changes, recorded step by step as the application evolves. As projects grow, new models appear, users, posts, comments, categories, profiles. Relationships slowly begin forming between them. Rails continues guiding the structure through familiar conventions. Files are named predictably. Tables follow consistent patterns. Classes connect naturally to their database tables. Over time, these conventions reduce friction, allowing developers to spend less energy remembering configuration and more energy thinking clearly about the application itself. And quietly beneath everything, Rails continues helping organize the architecture, one model at a time. As applications begin to grow, it becomes important to ensure that the information being stored is valid. A user account may require an email address. A username may need to be unique. A password may need to contain enough characters. And rather than checking these rules manually throughout the application, Rails allows models to define validations directly. Validations help protect the integrity of data before it is saved into the database. If information does not meet the expected rules, the record simply will not be persisted. This creates a layer of protection between the application and the data being stored underneath it. Imagine a simple sign-up form. A new user enters their name, their email, and a password. If the email field is left empty, the application may wish to prevent the account from being created. And if another user already exists with the same username, the application may wish to stop duplicates from appearing. These are the kinds of responsibilities validations are designed to handle. Rails includes many common validations out of the box. Presence validations help ensure information exists. Length validations can require text to contain a minimum number of characters. Uniqueness validations help avoid duplicate values. Numerical validations can ensure a value is actually a number, and because these rules are placed directly inside the model, they remain close to the data they are protecting. Over time, this helps applications feel more predictable and maintainable. The rules become easy to find, easy to understand, and easy to update as requirements change. One of the reasons many developers enjoy working with Rails is that these validations often read almost like plain language. The model begins describing itself clearly. A user should have an email. A password should be long enough. A title should exist before a post is published. Simple expectations, expressed directly within the structure of the application. And while validations may seem small at first, they play an important role in helping applications remain stable over time. Each validation becomes a small boundary, quietly helping maintain consistency. As more models begin appearing inside an application, relationships naturally begin to form between them. A user may create many posts. A post may contain many comments. A profile may belong to a single user. Rather than treating every model as completely separate, Rails allows these connections to be described directly through associations. Associations help models understand how they relate to one another. And once these relationships are defined, Rails can provide many helpful behaviors automatically. Imagine a simple blog application once again. A single user may write many different posts over time. Instead of manually connecting those records every time they are accessed, Rails allows the relationship to be described clearly inside the models themselves. The application begins to understand that users and posts are connected. And from there, working with related data becomes much more natural. A developer may retrieve all posts belonging to a specific user, or discover which user created a particular post. The framework helps manage much of this interaction behind the scenes. One of the most common relationships in Rails is the one-to-many relationship. A user has many posts, but each post belongs to one user. Simple ideas, repeated throughout many different applications. An online store may have many products. A product may have many reviews. A category may contain many articles. Patterns begin repeating themselves naturally across different projects. Rails also supports one-to-one relationships. A user may have one profile. A shopping cart may belong to one user, and in larger applications, many-to-many relationships may appear as well. Posts may have many tags, and tags may belong to many posts. As these associations grow, the application begins to feel interconnected. Models no longer exist in isolation. They reference one another, share information, and create structure together. And because Rails follows consistent naming conventions, many of these relationships become surprisingly readable over time. Developers begin recognizing familiar patterns immediately: users and posts, articles and comments, categories and products. Associations quietly connecting different parts of the application together, allowing information to move naturally between models as the project evolves. As Rails applications continue growing, another pattern begins appearing again and again. Convention over configuration. It is one of the ideas most closely associated with Rails, and one of the reasons many developers find the framework enjoyable to work with. The idea itself is fairly simple. If developers follow common conventions, Rails can make many assumptions automatically, and because of those assumptions, less configuration needs to be written manually. File names follow predictable patterns. Models connect naturally to database tables. Controllers map cleanly to routes. Views appear in familiar locations throughout the project. Over time, these patterns begin reducing the amount of decision-making required during development. Instead of constantly asking where files should live or how components should connect, developers can often rely on conventions that already exist within the framework. A model named user will usually connect to a users table. A controller named posts controller will often work with posts. A view related to articles will typically appear inside an articles directory. The structure begins feeling consistent, almost architectural. And because many Rails applications follow similar conventions, developers can often move between projects without feeling completely lost. Even unfamiliar applications begin to feel recognizable. Patterns repeat themselves. Directories feel familiar. relationships behave predictably. This consistency becomes especially valuable as projects grow larger. Applications may contain hundreds of files, many different models, background jobs, controllers, services, and tests. Without conventions, the structure could quickly become difficult to navigate. But Rails encourages organization through shared patterns, not by forcing developers into rigid limitations, but by providing defaults that work well most of the time. And when developers do need something different, Rails still allows flexibility. Conventions provide a starting point, not a prison. Over time, many developers begin appreciating how much mental energy these conventions save. Less configuration, less repetitive setup, more focus on the behavior of the application itself. And somewhere beneath the framework, those conventions continue quietly shaping the structure of the project, helping everything fit together in a way that feels readable, organized, and familiar. As we begin reaching the end of tonight's exploration, we can take a moment to look back at the pieces that come together inside a Rails application. Models help represent information. Databases store records over time. Validations help protect the integrity of data before it is saved. Associations allow different models to connect naturally to one another. And conventions help organize the entire structure in a way that feels consistent and readable. Over time, these ideas begin forming familiar patterns. A user creates posts. Posts contain comments. Profiles belong to users. Categories organize articles. Simple structures, repeated throughout many different applications. And one of the reasons Rails has remained so popular for so many years is that it often allows developers to focus more attention on ideas and less attention on repetitive configuration. The framework handles many common patterns automatically, allowing projects to grow from small applications into much larger systems over time. As developers continue working with Rails, many of these concepts become second nature. Models, migrations, tables, associations, roots, controllers, patterns that may once have seemed unfamiliar, slowly becoming part of the rhythm of development itself. And while web applications can become very large and complex, many Rails projects still rest upon these same foundational ideas underneath. Organized models, clear relationships, consistent structure, readable code, small conventions repeated carefully throughout the application. So whether someone is building a simple blog, an online store, a social platform, or something entirely different, these foundations continue appearing again and again beneath the surface. Thank you for spending this time exploring Ruby on Rails tonight. If there is another Rails topic you would like to hear in a future video, perhaps roots, controllers, active record queries, or background jobs, feel free to leave a comment below. And until next time, may your migrations run successfully, your tests remain green, and your applications continue evolving one model at a time.